They called him reckless, suicidal, a fool with a death wish. But among the stars, in a war that no one thought humans could survive, his name would echo louder than any title: Captain Jace Thorne. The jungle air was heavy on the planet Caltheron 4, thick, humid, and filled with the sounds of alien birds and distant thunder. Captain Thorne crouched behind a moss-covered rock, scanning the tree line with his rifle. His squad was already gone, dead or scattered. He was alone now, except for the reason he had stayed behind. 100 meters behind him, hidden in a small ravine beneath twisted alien trees, lay Queen Solari of the Valari Dominion, unconscious, wounded, and vulnerable. She was unlike any creature from Earth, skin of pale silver, eyes like violet stars, and a presence that felt ancient, powerful, and, now, fragile. Jace had no orders to protect her. In fact, the treaty between humans and Valari was hanging by a thread. But when the ambush struck, a rain of arrows from the trees, energy bolts from camouflaged enemy units, and the queen fell from her hover throne, bleeding and dazed, Jace didn't think. He ran to her, dragged her out of the kill zone under fire, hauled her to safety. And now here he was, facing an enemy hunting party, with nothing but one rifle, 2 grenades, and a body already bruised and bleeding. Movement. Left side. Jace exhaled slowly, raised his rifle, and fired. The enemy dropped, a jagged armored predator from the Kraith Alliance, their eyes glowing red in the dark. Not human. Not Valari. Something worse. Something old. Jace tapped his comm signal. Too deep in the forest. Footsteps behind. He turned sharply, but it was the queen. She had awakened, leaning against a tree, clutching her side where blood shimmered. "You stayed," she said, her voice a whisper in accented English. Jace gave a tight nod. "Didn't seem right to leave you for target practice. You defied protocol. Your own people would have done the same," Jace lied. He wasn't sure they would have, but that didn't matter now. He moved toward her and knelt. "Can you walk? I will not slow you down." "Good. Because we're about to be surrounded." More enemies approached. Jace could hear their armor scraping through the brush, their war speak crackling over alien radios. They didn't want her captured. They wanted her dead. He knew what he had to do. "Stay low. Move when I say. And if I go down, you will not." The queen cut him off sharply. Her gaze locked on his. "You must not." Jace gave a wry smile. "I'll try to schedule that for later." Then it happened. The enemy broke cover. A full squad of Kraith warriors charged from the tree line, war cries piercing the air. Arrows, real ones, tipped with plasma, designed to pierce Valari shields, flew like a storm. Jace didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of the queen. Arrows slammed into his chest plate. One ripped through his arm. Another grazed his neck. Pain exploded like fire through his nerves, but he stood. He fired back, even as blood poured from him. He covered the queen with his body as they ducked into cover. His vision blurred. The world turned red. But he didn't fall. His boots dug into the dirt. His rifle barked again and again until it clicked dry. He threw it aside, drew his sidearm, and kept firing. And then, finally, silence. The enemy lay dead or retreating. Smoke drifted through the trees. Rain began to fall softly. Jace collapsed to one knee, gripping his bleeding arm. He was soaked in blood, some his own, some not. Queen Solari knelt beside him, touching his chest with trembling hands. Her eyes shimmered with something unspoken. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Jace tried to smirk, but failed. "Guess I've got a thing for dramatic rescues." She leaned closer. "You shielded me with your body. Took every wound meant for me. I'm used to pain," he muttered. The queen placed her hand over his heart. "You are, not like others. I've heard that before." She looked around. Her kingdom's enemies were broken, at least for now. "You have saved me. You may have saved peace between our people." Jace coughed, wincing. "Well, let's hope that buys me some decent medical care." But she wasn't smiling. Instead, her expression turned grave. "In my culture, what you did has a meaning. To offer your body to protect another, especially royalty, it is a vow." Jace blinked. "And what now? You stepped into death for me. That is a sacred act." He groaned. "Please tell me that doesn't mean I have to fight in some alien blood trial." She leaned closer, her breath soft against his ear. "It means, Captain Jace Thorne, you now belong to the Queen." Jace's eyes widened. "Well, crap, Pain was a heavy thing. It sat on Jace's chest like a weight made of stone and fire, pulsing with every heartbeat. The medics on Earth would have given him morphine, tech stims, and 6 days in a cryo bed. But Caltheron 4 had none of that. It only had alien salves, glowing herbs, and the gentle hands of Queen Silari herself. He woke up under a canopy of strange blue leaves, with silver light filtering through. A small Valari shelter had been set up. His armor had been stripped, his wounds treated with unfamiliar medicine that itched like fire ants but smelled like mint. "You're alive," said a voice. He turned his head slowly. Queen Silari stood at his bedside, wearing simple robes now, not the ceremonial gown of earlier. Her hair was tied back, her expression unreadable. "I try to make a habit of that," Jace muttered. She knelt beside him, hands folded. "You lost a great deal of blood. Your body resisted our healing methods at first, but you are recovering." Jace tried to sit up, but hissed and fell back. "Feels like I took a building to the chest," he groaned. "You intercepted 9 arrows. 4 broke through your armor. 2 nearly pierced your heart. Your body is—" She paused, struggling for the right word. "Stubborn. I've been told that." She stood, graceful as mist, and turned away. Jace watched her for a moment. "So what now?" he asked. "You said I belong to the Queen. Is that, like, symbolic? Or am I about to be paraded through the streets in chains?" She looked over her shoulder. "You speak so casually about honor. I'm a soldier. We bleed for strangers all the time. Doesn't make it sacred." Silari turned back to him, her violet eyes narrowing. "That is where your people are different. Among the Valari, sacrifice is not common. Protection is expected from guards, from machines, from walls. Not from flesh. Not from a single man who owed us nothing." "I didn't do it for politics," Jace said. "I saw you about to die. I had a choice." She nodded slowly. "And you chose death for me." "I chose to try and prevent it," he corrected. A moment passed. Then, softly, she said, "You are bound now." Jace frowned. "You keep saying that. What does that actually mean?" "In our culture, stepping into harm's path for another creates a life bond. It is not symbolic. It is tradition. Law. You are now part of the royal house." Jace blinked. "I'm royalty?" "No. You are bonded to me, which means you are mine, and I am yours. In matters of protection. In presence. In other ways." Jace sat up again despite the pain. "Other ways?" She didn't look away. "You saved my life. Now I must share it with you." He blinked. "That's kind of a big deal." "It is not done lightly," she agreed. Jace's soldier brain was screaming. Rules. Boundaries. Treaties. But somewhere deeper, the part of him that had seen war's worst, that had saved civilians and buried friends, there was something else. A strange warmth. Something real. "Look," he said finally. "I didn't do this to get anything from you." "I know," she said quietly. "That is why it matters." Silence lingered between them. Then Jace looked down at his chest. "Still hurts." She smiled slightly, kneeling beside him again. She opened a small glass vial, tipped it to her fingers, and touched his skin. The salve was warm. "Gentle. Rest," she said. "The forest is not yet safe." Jace let his head fall back. As he drifted, he heard her whisper, "You are not just mine now, Jace Thorne. You are ours." He woke the next day to alarms. The camp was under attack again. This time it wasn't Kraith hunters. It was the Valari, a breakaway faction of Valari radicals who believed humans were not allies, but pests. They had found the Queen, and they had come with energy cannons, aerial drones, and elite assassins. Jace pushed himself to his feet, ignoring the searing pain. Someone handed him a weapon, not his rifle, but a Valari plasma bow. Lighter. Deadlier. He stepped out into the clearing and saw fire. The Queen was already leading defenders, not from behind, but at the front, directing fire with calm precision. Jace moved toward her, taking down a drone with a lucky shot. One of the Queen's guards fell, vaporized by a cannon. Jace dove into position beside her. "I thought you said this forest was unsafe," he shouted. She looked over at him, eyes blazing. "Now it is ours to make safe." The battle raged. Jace fought beside her, and when the Valari leader stepped into the clearing, armored in shimmering black, twin blades glowing, it was Jace who intercepted the first strike. Steel met steel. Flesh met fury. The duel began. The Valari leader moved like lightning, twin blades a blur of energy and purpose. Jace barely had time to raise his own borrowed plasma bow to parry the first strike, and even that came at a cost. His arm went numb from the impact, and the bow sparked, half-melted. He threw it aside, drawing the Valari short blade at his waist. Not a soldier's weapon. Not for someone like him. But it would have to do. The enemy commander advanced with cruel grace, his voice a low hiss through his mask. You are the human who dares stand beside her. Jace didn't respond. He was already lunging, blade aimed low. The Valari parried with ease and countered with a downward slash that barely missed Jace's head. He rolled to the side, felt pain spike through his healing chest, and kept moving. Around them, the forest was alive with war. Plasma bolts cut through leaves, explosions shook the trees, and Valari warriors fought fiercely against the Valari radicals. Queen Solari was still directing her forces, shouting commands with clarity, but her eyes never left Jace. She could see the duel and knew what it meant. This was no ordinary attack. The Valari leader wasn't here to win the battle. He was here to kill Jace. Because Jace had changed something sacred. He had bonded with the queen. A human, bound to a royal Valari. It was blasphemy to them. Jace ducked another strike, then slammed his shoulder into the Valari's side. It knocked the alien back a step, just enough for Jace to drive the short blade toward his gut. But the Valari twisted, let the blade glance off armor, and retaliated with a brutal punch to Jace's injured ribs. White-hot agony. Jace staggered, collapsed to one knee. You're not one of us, the Valari snarled. You do not belong here. She will see that. Your bond is a mistake. Jace spit blood into the grass and looked up. I may not be Valari, he said, but I bled for her. Where were you? The alien screamed and charged. This time, Jace didn't retreat. He threw himself forward, caught the attacker off balance, and locked arms with him. They crashed into the ground, blades flashing. Jace's knife slid under the Valari's armor. With one last roar of effort, Jace twisted the blade upward. The Valari leader went still, then cold, then lifeless. Jace rolled off the body, panting, pain soaking every nerve in his body. He didn't even hear the cheering at first. Only when he looked up did he realize the Valari were falling back. Their leader dead, their attack collapsing. The queen knelt beside him. Again, just like before. You never stop, she whispered. Jace coughed. Takes more than a lunatic with fancy knives to kill me. You killed him with a blade meant for ceremony, she said. Not war. I improvised. She smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't sad or royal. It was warm. You saved me again, she said. Jace blinked. You're starting to sound surprised. I'm starting to believe the stars sent you. He groaned. Please don't turn me into a myth. She laughed, musical and bright. Too late. Valari healers swarmed around him then. But Silari waved them off. She wrapped her own arms around him and helped him to his feet. The battlefield was still, the enemy gone, and every Valari warrior bowed as the humans stood beside their queen, bloodied, scarred, and unyielding. Later that night, the camp was quiet. Fires burned low. The wounded rested. Jace sat by the queen's tent, still aching, but whole. She joined him, wearing a robe of black and silver, her hair down now. I spoke to my council, she said. Let me guess, Jace replied. They want to throw me out of the palace window. Some of them. Others want to make you a general. He snorted. I'm just a grunt. She looked at him, soft and sincere. No, Jace. You're the reason I'm alive. Twice now. You fought for me, not as a soldier. As a man. That is rare among my people. He shifted uncomfortably. Still don't understand your rules. You don't have to. She reached into a small pouch and drew out something glowing. A shard of crystal, threaded through with fine gold. This is a soul bond charm, she said. When we bond ourselves to another, this is worn. He raised an eyebrow. And you're giving me one? I'm asking if you will accept it. Silence hung between them. Then Jace reached out and took it. I don't know what I'm doing, he said honestly. But I'm not going anywhere. Her eyes shone. You never do. That's what makes you dangerous. He chuckled. To the enemy, I hope. To my heart, she whispered. 3 days had passed since the attack. The forest no longer echoed with battle cries or explosions. Instead, there was rebuilding, quiet hands reinforcing defenses, warriors recovering, and for the first time in weeks, peace. Jace walked slowly beside Queen Solari, still bandaged from his last fight. His limp had become part of him now. He didn't complain. Not once. The Valari watched him wherever he went. Some with admiration, some with awe, and a few with lingering doubt. Your people stare like I'm a wild animal in a zoo, Jace muttered. They've never seen a human, Silari replied, lips curled in amusement. They've never seen anyone like you. I doubt they mean that as a compliment. Oh, I do. They reached the upper terrace of the Valari stronghold, a natural structure formed from crystalline vines grown over generations. From here, the stars were visible, twinkling coldly above the canopy. Jace leaned against the railing, wincing. Pain again? She asked. Reminds me I'm alive. And that you almost weren't, she said gently. He looked at her. So why'd they let me stay? She smiled. Because the council voted. Unanimously. You've been granted protector status. Protector of what, exactly? Me. Jace blinked. Wait. I'm your personal guard now. It's more than that, she said. Protector is a title of honor. Not given. Earned. It means your blood is trusted more than any sword. He rubbed the back of his neck. That's heavy. You deserve it. They stood in silence a moment. Then she said, There's one more thing. Jace groaned. I knew it. Tomorrow, a delegation arrives from the outer Valari provinces. They believe I've lost my way for bonding with you. Great, he said. Let me guess. They'll want to test my worthiness? Worse, she said. They want to see if you've changed me. He frowned. Have I? Yes, she said softly. You've reminded me that leaders can have hearts, and that loving someone doesn't mean weakness. He looked away, unsure what to say. But that frightens them, she continued. They believe showing love opens doors to betrayal. Well, Jace said, eyes on the horizon. Then maybe it's time someone kicked that door down. The next day, the delegation arrived in sleek skimmer ships, 6 tall Valari, each draped in royal blue with silver glyphs over their chests. Their expressions were unreadable. They bowed stiffly to Queen Silari, then turned to Jace. This is the human? One asked, her voice icy. This creature whose scars stain your path. Jace didn't flinch. Nice to meet you too. The speaker narrowed her eyes. Your tongue is sharp for someone so short-lived. Better a sharp tongue than a hollow oath. The room tensed. Silari raised a hand. Peace. He speaks with my blessing. The delegation exchanged looks. One stepped forward. Let him prove it, the eldest said. If he is to remain at your side, let him face the rite of binding. Alone. Silari stiffened. That trial has not been invoked in over a century. It was made for times like these, the elder said coldly. Jace spoke up. What is it? Silari looked at him. A ritual in the deep forest. You enter the heart of the ancient roots. The old spirits watch. If you are found unworthy, they do not allow you to leave. Jace raised an eyebrow. Spirits, huh? Guess I'm not just fighting angry aliens anymore. You could die, she said plainly. Jace met her gaze. Then they'll learn what I'm willing to die for. That night, with only a torch and his short blade, Jace walked into the sacred grove. No weapons. No tech. Just faith and scars. The forest grew thicker. The light dimmed. Strange whispers echoed through the trees. Shapes moved at the edge of vision. He didn't run. Didn't shout. Just kept walking. He came to a clearing, a circle of ancient, glowing stones. At its center, a twisted tree rose like a clawed hand, covered in glowing moss. Then the air shimmered, and the spirits came. Not ghosts. Memories, wrapped in light. Tall Valari warriors. Ancient queens. Fallen heroes. They stepped forward, surrounding him, their faces expressionless. A voice echoed in his mind. You bleed. You love. But are you true? He answered without hesitation. I don't know if I'm worthy of her, but I'll never stop fighting for her. Even if I have to crawl through every nightmare you throw at me. Another voice, deeper now. Would you give your life for hers? I already did. Twice. Silence. Then a third voice, colder than the others. Then give us your pain. Every scar. Let your soul be judged. Suddenly, the clearing turned red. Flames rose around him. Not real fire, but burning memories. He saw himself again and again, shielding Silari from arrows. Fighting the Valari leader with a broken blade. Standing in front of an angry council, unafraid. And then, something more. Silari, laughing softly. Her hand on his cheek. Her whisper in the dark. Stay with me. The flames vanished. And the spirits bowed. One by one. He was still standing. Still breathing. And still himself. He walked back at dawn. Silari stood at the forest's edge, waiting. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. You returned. I said I would. He held up something glowing, a shard from the sacred tree, now pulsing with silver light. The spirits said yes. She took it with trembling hands. You've done what no outsider ever has. He smiled. Then I guess I'm not an outsider anymore. The throne room was silent. Queen Silari stood tall beside Jace as the sacred shard, proof of his survival and the spirit's approval, was placed upon the altar. The delegates from the outer provinces no longer wore disdain on their faces. What replaced it wasn't quite respect, but it was no longer doubt. The eldest stepped forward slowly. We have seen enough. Her voice was calm now. He entered the grove, alone, and returned untouched. The spirits have chosen. We will not oppose your decision. Jace crossed his arms. Nice to finally be treated like someone, not something. Another delegate nodded. You may not see it now, human, but your presence has shifted the future. Some of us feared you would twist her, but it is we who were blinded. Silari stepped forward. Then let it be known across all provinces. From this day onward, Jace Renner of Earth is no longer outsider, no longer stranger. He is protector, by fire, by sacrifice, and by the will of the ancients. The chamber erupted in solemn applause. A traditional Valari salute followed, hands raised to the sky, then crossed over the chest. Jace blinked. Do I have to do that salute every time? Silari smirked. Only if you want to make the old ones happy. I'll think about it. That night, Silari invited him to the royal gardens, now lit with soft violet glowstones. The air smelled of flowering sapvine, and somewhere in the trees, songbirds mimicked the melodies of the day. They walked slowly, side by side. No arrows flying at us this time. Jace said, Do you miss them? He raised an eyebrow. Do you? She laughed, an actual laugh. Not royal, not formal, just pure. You've made me laugh more in the last week than I have in a decade. Glad to be of service, Your Radiance. She stopped walking. Don't call me that. What, Your Radiance? Yes. What should I call you then? She turned to face him. Silari. He hesitated. That's personal. I know. They stood in silence under the glowing vines. Then she asked softly, Why did you really step in front of those arrows? He shrugged. Because I couldn't let you die? That's not an answer. Not the real one. He looked at her. You want truth? Yes. Because, somewhere between fighting beside you, hearing you speak to your people, watching you risk everything, you became more than a queen. You became someone worth giving everything for. She was quiet a moment. Her hand gently reached out and touched the side of his face, fingers tracing the faint scar beneath his eye. You're bleeding again, she said quietly. He touched the spot. Huh, didn't notice. I did. Their eyes met, and for once, no words were needed. A week later, the alliance between Earth and the Valari was formalized, a ceremony unlike any other. Human diplomats arrived via orbital jump. The Valari Council attended in full regalia, and at the center stood two figures, Queen Silari and her protector, Jace. When asked to speak, Jace kept it simple. I'm not a politician. I don't know the right words, but I know what war feels like. I know what losing someone feels like, and I know what it means to finally have something to fight for, not just against. Silari stepped forward after him. The stars are wide and filled with dangers, but when hearts from different worlds beat in the same rhythm, even the darkness trembles. They held hands as the flags of Earth and Valari were raised together for the first time. That night, alone on the same balcony where they had first looked at the stars, Jace asked the question that had been sitting in his heart. So what now? She turned toward him. Now, she echoed. We build. Together. We fight when needed. Love when allowed. And we remind the galaxy what unity truly looks like. He smirked. That's a lot of pressure. She leaned in. Not if you're by my side. You sure? I've never been more sure. Then, finally, she kissed him. Not as a queen. Not as a leader. But as the woman whose life he saved, and who had saved him right back. Across the stars, stories were told of a human who stepped into a war not his own, who bled for a people who once saw him as nothing, who walked into sacred fire and came out bearing the scars of worth. He became more than legend. He became a bridge, a protector, and for one queen, he became everything.